Hello, my name is Eric and I'm doing another one of my photography vlogs called One Body, One Lens, One Roll, One Day. And I'm deciding to do something a little different today. I'm staying at home because my wife's flowers are blooming. And what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little bit of macro photography. There's a couple different ways that you can do macro. I'm doing one of them here. My camera today is a Pentax Super Program. I've used this guy before. However, I've done like two different conversions to this. One, I don't have a K-mount, standard bayonet mount Pentax 50mm lens to do what I'm going to try to do, but I do have a Pentax Takumar screw mount lens to do it. And what I'm doing is I've got two adapters on this. I've got the bayonet K-mount adapter to M42 screw mount, and then I put a reversing ring which gives me that screw mount to the filter thread of the front of this Takumar 50-1.4, and then I'm flipping it backwards. I'm reversing the direction of the lens. It's called a reversing ring. So I had to use an adapter to be able to use the reversing ring on this body. So the reason why I'm doing this is that, well, there's like 5 different ways to do macro. One, you get a zoom lens that has a built-in macro 1 to 2, and I've used that before. You've probably seen some of the photos of the previous episode. 2, you get an actual macro lens. Pentax has a couple. There's a 50 and there's a 100. Nikon's got a couple. Sigma has some. Tamron has some. They all have at least 1, 2, maybe 3. Then you can use extension tubes, which basically fits in between the lens and the body and pushes the lens forward, giving your current lens more minimum focusing distance. You tend to lose infinity, but you get that. In a lot of older series lenses, the Nikon 55 macro non-AI usually had a extension tube paired with it, so you could really get that macro. The last option, which is what I have, is using the reversing ring, which is taking a standard non-macro lens, inverting it, and basically creating a super macro. However, don't try just using it as normal because my focus range is like 14, 15 inches. All right, I'm going to set this up. I'm going to load it up. I'm using some fresh stock Fuji 400, so nothing special here. Bought this a couple weeks ago. So I'm not expecting, I don't have to make any corrections because it expired and stuff like that. All right, I'm going to load this up. I'll be right back. Okay, so I thought I was going to have to shoot this all manual, even though the camera has an auto setting, because the camera can't read the aperture. However, this lens has a manual step down, so when I change the aperture, the blades go down and they hold their position. In the auto mode, the camera is reading that and is adjusting shutter speed accordingly. So while I'm not in full auto, I can imitate an aperture priority. I will probably shoot aperture priority and get some manual ones in there too, just to have some fun with it, see what I get. All right, let me put the camera on the tripod. Let me get it at some good angles. My distance is going to be inches away from these flowers, so I'm going to set up a couple shots. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, I'm like 4 or 5 inches away from this flower to get the shots. My first readings, and I'm kind of in the shade, so I should have some nice even lighting. My first readings at f1.4, I'm getting about a 30th of a second, so there's probably a very small chance I could handhold it with a depth of field that small and that slow being this close. So I put it on a tripod and see what I can get. Now, using the split image finder to find my focus, I kind of explained that in a previous episode. I am slightly off from what I'm pointing at, and I can try to fix that by figuring if I need to go slightly closer, slightly farther away. Actually, I just need to realign everything. And I pretty much have very minimal depth of field. So even if I were to try to move the focus ring, it would drift so slowly that it probably wouldn't make any difference. So I've got it there, and I'm just going to move the camera in and out a little bit. Try to shoot at a maybe slightly deeper depth of field. maybe crank it about 5/6, about a quarter of a second. I just saw something. I didn't really check the ISO on my camera, so that's part of my problem. Is I'm shooting at 100 ISO, even though it's 400 speed film. So I'm going to recheck that, reset it. So I'm kind of hoping those first two are just going to be way overexposed, and that's okay. Because hey, this is all about learning. Now, this particular tripod has an arm that sits out. The catch is that it does have a slight shift on it, no matter how much I tighten. I guess something's come a little loose, but that's okay. Just means I have to find another position to put this in, so that way everything sits there right. Now, when your arm is all the way out like that, you usually don't want to sit in the between legs. You want to sit on the leg, so that way all the weight is right there and your tripod's supporting everything. Now I'm getting about 125th of a second because I had the ISO set wrong, and that's the difference between higher speed films and lower speed films. Is higher speed films let you get more depth or faster shutter speed, so you can handhold or do something like that. All right, I'm going to take some more shots of all this stuff. I'm going to sit here and let you guys watch me do all that, but I'm going to get about 10-15 shots. I'll be right back. All right, so when shooting this tight of a macro, the problem is that your depth of field is so razor thin that you really have to check your focus, and hopefully the stuff's not moving. Now, I've got a slight breeze here, so maybe some stuff may or may not be in focus, but that's the fun of learning. Couple ways that you can try to get some more depth of field. One, increase the f-stop on the lens, but if you're shooting at like 1.4, 1.8, or 2, like I'm seeing right here, but I stop it all the way down to f22 to get a maximum depth. That's almost like 10 stops of light, which will increase your depth of field from razor thin to maybe an inch deep, which would be good enough for flowers. The catch becomes now you're 10 stops slower on your shutter speed, which either means you need to increase what film you're using. I'm using 400. You'd have to go to 800 or higher. Then you get some more grain. Or you have to basically stay at the lower aperture to get the light, or you have to add light. So right now I'm kind of in the shade of my house, but you could get you'd be out in the sun, and that would help you out too. Now, for digital photographers, you've got another tool, and that's called focus stacking. And what that is that you take a photo, your focus is preset on a particular distance, probably either the very front or very tail end of what it is you're photographing. And in a series of photographs, you take multiple shots, pulling your camera back ever so slightly with either using a slide rail system, or some cameras have that built in where they will drift the sensor ever so slightly to help you do that focus stacking, in which case you can stick with the shallower aperture, 2, 2.8, 5.6, but with multiple shots at multiple focus points, you can then stack them up in the computer, and now you've got, with multiple shots, get that depth that you were looking for. So if you're trying to get a bug for a film photographer, you just might see his eyes and may not see the antenna or everything else. With a digital, you could focus stack it, and as long as the bug doesn't move. All right, I'm about 20 shots in. I'm gonna maybe walk around the front, see what I see up front. There's a couple dandelions and other little flowers kind of sticking out. I'm gonna try to get them. Got some shots of my wife's lavender right here. Trying to keep the deer away from the lilies, only partially working. They got some of them already. Okay, I'm gonna get some more shots. All right, so I finished up my roll doing other macro stuff other than flowers. I found some screws and stuff like that. So I'm at the end of my roll, and as a reminder, for these old manual cameras, there is typically a pin on the bottom. I'm going to push and hold that pin down. I tend to hold it, but you could probably let it go. I'm just always afraid it's going to pop out and I'm going to break my film. And then rewind your film. And typically it'll go as many winds as you took photos. This was a roll of 36, so somewhere between 30 and 40 spins. It'll release like that. Pop it open. There's your roll of film. All right. Images will be posted on the end. Give it a thumbs up if you like the shots. Hopefully they came out. First time I've done reversing ring, better part of 20 years. Give comments if you like them. Feel free to share. Let me know if you learned something or which macro style you prefer, whether standard macro lens, extension tubes, reversing ring, or actually there's another way you can use macro filters. That's the least expensive way. All right, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe for more episodes. They typically come out on Fridays. All right, thanks a lot.